you very much, Vivian. Let me first share my screen. Do you see it well? Is it fine? Okay, perfect. Thank you very much again, Vivian, for the introduction, and absolute pleasure for me to be invited as a speaker to be sharing the experiences of BGB Active, organization established in 2011 that has been working on promoting sustainable development and well-being. I'll do my best just to keep the same level of inspiration that after the presentation of Kathleen, because it was truly motivational and I was enjoying the whole pictures. And I'll be sharing with you the experiences that our organization in Bulgaria, in Plovdiv, we have done in Bulgaria. And of course, that wouldn't have been possible without a dedicated team, BGB Active team that I proudly call my colleagues, that is also devoted to sustainability and well-being in Bulgaria. When thinking about actually how I can start explaining our understanding of placemaking, I just decided to go back in hindsight and remember my times when I joined BGB Active back in 2018 as a volunteer, as Vivian also mentioned. I was given the concept of placemaking and invited to go to some locations to try this process on my own. You can see some of these colorful pictures from 2 locations. We've been actually at more locations, but these are most vivid examples that I found interesting for you to share with you. And basically just looking at the definition of placemaking and seeing the world in itself, combining of 2 elements, place and making, that didn't really make sense to me back at that time, because I couldn't understand what is the difference between construction and the companies that actually go in and build something from the very beginning to the end with the specific professionals in there. Until I just got engaged myself in this kind of process in one location was in Zlatica and the other was in Varna, totally different backgrounds, totally different stories behind and totally different needs. But there was some elements that were actually common for both of these locations. First of all, that each placemaking process in both of these locations started with as a solution to specific local problem and need, because these communities people that decided to start placemaking and engage with us in placemaking, they were sharing some specific concern that they wanted to settle with the placemaking, and placemaking was extremely helpful for them as a solution. Placemaking also was, as I mentioned, it was initiated and contributed by the local community involvement, and this is another key component of placemaking, because even though there is no unanimously agreed definition of what placemaking is, I think that the most important and key element that what we are trying to do is to work with communities, and placemaking is actually on one side, it helps to build community, and at the same time, it is the result of the community work. So it's a 2-side story. And again, all the placemaking processes are really personal stories and personal ideas. Like you cannot really find placemaking that is identical to another placemaking happening in another country or even another location, because as I mentioned, placemaking is a solution to a specific need, and that's why it is authentic and it's personal. And after first 2 years of application of placemaking methodology and trying to work with these communities, you can see on the left picture that we've built kind of a network, and I was just so happy to be part of that, because we developed more than 20 places with a personal story behind, with a personal identity. As you can see that all of these areas, it has something in specific, something that it's authentic with. And this is another key point of placemaking that we try to develop, is that we were doing our best to move placemaking from central locations in Bulgaria that are already sustained and developed, and to try to work with other small towns and villages, and to see how community engages in there. And the result of the survey that we conducted in 2018 was a tremendous success, because we got more than 90% satisfaction rate in the community, and more than 70% people willing to continue actually with the placemaking, and to willing to engage in further activities. These 2 pictures, because we have quite many of these kind of pictures, but these 2 are quite symbolic to what we've built by the grandeur and by the extent that we've worked the project in there. So you can see one of these areas on the left is abandoned. It was an abandoned area in Silistra, which served as which didn't serve as a place for gathering and fun, but now it is a place for community gatherings. And another place which was built from the very beginning. We happily supported the idea of one of the local activist group in Schumann to build an area for young people and for them to have a place to interact and socialize. But in this kind of situation, we might wonder where is the place for litter in placemaking? Actually, there's a lot, because placemaking initially is the idea, holds the idea that it should be green, clean, and safe. And this is the key component of placemaking. But another key component is that this place should be maintained also by the local communities, that it cannot happen if the efforts, when you leave as a team of supporting team and there is nothing happening, this is hardly can be called placemaking, because the community should familiarize themselves with the idea and familiarize themselves with the place that they live in. And also every place that we built was also exposed to littering and vandalism. And actually the situation aggravated too much in the COVID lockdown that happened last year. We got several cases of littering and vandalism, because all the public places were closed and people had no other option but to go to other places that we built. And they were because they looked attractive and inspiring for people. So also attracted some vandalism and misconduct. And that's why we would try to focus on another litter-free dimension in placemaking. And another key component is that people don't like to be told. They don't like to be told what they have to do. They don't like to be given specific advice or to be given specific solution. It's just not something in the human nature, unfortunately. So we've decided to take another path, with long but more impactful, and try to concentrate on behavior change in people and how people can be more educated on the litter agenda with the litter-free placemaking. And that's how we developed basically the concept, which we tried in 2019 for the first time as a part of the Plovdiv European Capital of Culture 2019, because the city was chosen to be hosting an array of different types of physical events and festivals and cultural activities. And we were just really happy to try to test how actually the culture and litter-free culture is connected with the whole notion of the culture, because this is something that that we consider part of our behavior, that litter-free behavior should be part of the civic culture that people have, and it's not just about being educated. And we tried to start the activities by provoking people to observe, to participate, and act. With the report that we started, 85% of people declared that environmental protection is a key importance for them, but only 15% of these people were eager to participate and irregularly in this kind of activities. So that's how actually the project was given another impetus and another motivation to continue. And we couldn't help but also work with the urban stakeholders in Plovdiv and tried more activities on community engagement, which I'm going to be sharing with you in short. One of these activities, actually, you can see on the pictures on the left, we continued with green placemaking and tried to insert this green agenda in our placemaking initiatives, because placemaking in itself starts with a cleanup. You cannot start placemaking without having a cleanup of the event on the area and just get rid of the litter and get rid of the different kind of garbage that there is on the area. So we decided to bring this component into placemaking initiatives that we were doing, which was really successful because we conducted 3 interventions here in the city of Plovdiv only. We also tried to use the language of art, because this is an important part of awareness and of how people understand the culture. You can see on the picture, one of the interventions that we used was trash patrol, provoking and inviting people to pay attention to littering and to waste recycling, and why it is important overall to be to support this kind of initiatives. And another one in the picture on the right, a lot of cleanup events. Throughout 2019, we collected something around 6 tons of garbage just through this kind of campaigns, and we're really happy that we contributed to taking this garbage out of the nature. And I'm just going shortly to the placemaking and actually the real campaign that we started last year in 2020, by focusing just more precisely on the partnership and on sharing responsibility with people, because waste-free thinking is actually it cannot be given and only to the responsibility of people or municipality. It's a combination of actors and groups that contribute to our environment, and they help shape this kind of environment in the area, in the local area. So we try to focus on partnership and make a platform where resources can be shared, where stories could be shared, where ideas could be shared, and actually signals also can be shared, because this is an important part that we sometimes not even aware of the sites that are littered, and we just need to know where it happens to be able to help it. So we decided to transfer this methodology that we tried in Plovdiv, and you can see it really vividly on the picture on the left, from Plovdiv to other locations in Bulgaria, including Varna, Shumen, Dobrich, Silistra, and north eastern coast, Black Sea coast of Bulgaria, by again focusing on placemaking as a tool for settling social challenges, because keeping in mind that placemaking is always about the community work and how you can inspire communities with your story and with your idea, exploring and adapting and not giving the precise solutions to people, because another key component is that you can take as many initiatives as possible from abroad, but they are not going to work, because you need to see how they can be adapted to the local agenda and to the local context, because people in the area, there are specific actors, they have specific values, they have specific norms that they abide. And it's crucial just to see how you can interact and to find the solution and to listen to these people, how they are ready to solve this problem. And through our initiatives, we didn't focus on just doing the work ourselves. We just try to provoke people to clean and to realize why it's actually necessary to be done like this. And again, another key component is that the local solutions are most important. Like you just don't come to the community with something prepared and tailor-made for them, but you need to develop and work with them in order to understand how they interact and how they need and they plan to work. So I'm going to be showing you some of the campaigns that we promoted in Bulgaria as a part of this partnership. We started with the placemaking as well, like as I mentioned already, by focusing on the community needs. And on the pictures on the left, you can see one of the places renovated in Silistra again, because this is the whole idea that we try to concentrate not on how beautiful places look like, but how useful they can be, because the place is alive only when it's used by people, not when it looks new and when it looks beautiful and when it's attractive, etc. There are many cases in Bulgaria when municipalities come and build the area from the beginning, but it's not used and it's not popular just because it's not negotiated with people, and people don't contribute to building this place. And another location in Shumen also, it is a good example of how we use placemaking to make an active place for people to come and enjoy. Community engagement is a key focus all the time to work on awareness raising and to work on promotion of waste recycling and waste separation and litter prevention. As you can see, one of their events happened in Plovdiv, where we concentrated on green placemaking, as I already mentioned, and tried to also involve kids as active placemakers, because we're confident that kids actually can get some really good knowledge and good skills from participating in this kind of activities, and because they also interact much better with each other, and they find the common language with each other much better, and that's why they are more helpful sometimes, because they don't have some kind of barriers that some people have in the communities. And another example of litter and prevention area placemaking in Varna, where we made the place more vivid and bright just by painting and making this attractive for people. We also concentrated on education campaign, because This is something that is crucial for giving an understanding of recycling and litter prevention. One of these activities happened in, some of these activities happened in Dobrich. You can see the recycling workshop that we conducted, and another part active environmental games, because kids also get to learn new skills, as I mentioned, and for them it's crucial to be in the integrative and inclusive process. Some of the just cases of the campaigns happening in Silistra. We're working with different types of businesses and organizations to give them resources and materials for promoting separate waste collection. And another campaign that happened actually on the beach about this sea littering prevention campaign in Varna. And another key component that we used throughout the partnership program is to activate people by giving them another motivation to engage in cleanup activities. One of the key component of this cleanup activities is that people don't like to come and clean, and they don't like being told that they are guilty for something that happened in one area. They don't like to handle this responsibility. So that's why we try to combine it with the different types of activities apart from just cleaning. One of these activities you can see on the left, this is underwater cleanup in Varna. We partnered with a good organization from there, and they invited cleanup by combining cleanup with scuba diving. So people could come and actually try scuba diving at the same time cleaning the area. And this is a double motivation for them, because they want to try something new that they never tried, at the same time cleaning the area. And another campaign that happened here in Plovdiv, that when we cleaned the rowing channel, and we also combined it in partnered with a group of Green Balkans, and combine it with studying the area, because apart from just cleaning the space, people could enjoy seeing and learning new things about flora and fauna from the area. They could see the species that live there on the river, and they could see what actually is distinctive about this area. We also used the language of art as we started in 2019, and used the interventions, advocacy interventions, and guerrilla marketing. As you can see on the left, it's one of the installations that we try to attract people's attention to the cigarette butt pollution, because this is a small piece of garbage, but it brings a huge effect on people's lives, and it is usually not something that we are aware of, and because we usually neglect this kind of pieces of waste. And another one is the plastic installation made of plastic bottles. All of these bottles were collected from one of the areas in Ezerets. This is the northern Black Sea coast of Bulgaria. And this area usually serves as the area for tourists to come and just enjoy the time, but at the same time they leave, and there's a lot of garbage after them. So the local community cleaned their garbage, cleaned this waste. They collected all these bottles, and we used it to make an intervention just to show how much of this waste actually is thrown in this area. And of course, the medium campaigns are also important, because if you don't get hurt, then you don't get attention, you don't get the support, and you don't get the followers. So that's why, especially during the COVID lockdown times, it was extremely urgent to concentrate on an online space, and we tried to do our best on promoting the knowledge and awareness in Bulgaria by launching some of the challenges for people to publish how they recycle, how they separate waste. You can see the picture in the middle, and also we invited some of the local designers to submit their ideas on how we can change the way that this signage is presented. Instead of trying to focus on prohibitory part of don't throw the garbage here in this area, we try to make it more creative and innovative by just giving examples of how we can prevent the littering in the area. And another one, which is a key important topic in placemaking, is also about making a community and building a stronger community by celebrating a key success. These are the cases of how we celebrated in different communities in Bulgaria. You can see one from Shumen, Silistra, and Varna. These events are crucial in terms of building communities and sustaining the community spirit, and again, highlighting the need for them for taking sustainability actions and supporting the area even after we finish the project basically in there. These are key points for me. Please, as Vivian mentioned, don't hesitate to check the page. We have the website, we have the Facebook page. If you have any questions, you're free to ask them now or to write me on email. Very, very welcome. Thank you very much.
Thank you too, Vlad. You can already see in the chat that you have many appreciations of your project, especially the one with the cigarette butts. Oh. So thank you very much for sharing inspiring programming together with your littering intervention. We will come back to that, have some thoughts and questions for you as well. And now we can move to our third speaker from the Netherlands. So I would like to invite Dr. Kaiser, who is a consultant researcher, writer, and assistant professor in the field of influence and persuasion from the Netherlands. He helps municipalities and other organizations in processes that involve behavior and perception change on topics such as littering. So today he will share with us some of his experiences, and he will help us a little bit filter all the practical knowledge that we have seen from the case studies now into from his experience point of view. Thank you very much, Case, for being here with us.
Yeah, thank you. Let me share my screen. So here we go. Can everybody hear me? Yeah, good. Okay. First of all, same as the other guests, thank you so much for being here. And it's great to share this topic. And it was also great to see all the projects that everybody is doing. Beautiful, just all these initiatives. Now, for Vivian's relaxation, I took some out of my presentation to leave some room for the questions, because I saw some questions coming by and they looked really interesting, much more interesting than my story. So I took some out, but please ask me if something is not clear. Thank you for the introduction, Vivian. Just to mention, I'm partly working as a consultant and then doing a lot of behavioral-driven interventions. That's what I assist government, municipalities, etc. with. And I also work in academia, and I'm linked to environmental psychology, which is all about the interaction between the individual and their environment, and also how you can use the environment to basically steer behavior. Now, that's all what has been shown here already. The course I teach, for example, are social influence and persuasion. That's all also about influencing people. It all sounds very bad, but it provides a lot of insight as well for doing good stuff. Now, and I do a lot of research on increasing rule and norm compliance, and then not with purely putting pressure on people with sanctions and that type of thing, but also with initiatives, as has been shown now. Now, and what I try to do for today is hopefully give you some support for the initiatives in a way, but I will dive into the academia side. That was what I was asked for, to show a series of experiments that we have been doing, and that provide hopefully some insight into littering behavior and also how we're influenced by other people. And it will show the impact of litter on behavior, but hopefully it also provides us with some tools in how to steer behavior towards the good. Now, and in order to do that, because the statement I will put forward today and that I try to show is the positive power of community initiatives. I think that is a great starting point for change. And to back this claim up, I will first dive into the bad and basically show what is inducing littering and other types of rule violations, and then use this when we turn to the good. Hopefully that makes sense, but just stick with me. Now, I want to address littering because that's, of course, and the impact of context on littering in either yes or no littering a piece of paper. And for your background, these are scientific studies. And what we really try to do is have as much control over the situation as possible to really dive into the question, what drives whether we litter, yes or no, a piece of paper. This is a short clip of, this is Groningen, the Netherlands, my home base. Now there is nobody on the streets because of COVID, but normally it's a crowded student place. And we use, can it get any more typical Dutch? We use bicycles. So this is a place where we did a study, and what we did was we connected a lot of flyers on the handlebars of bicycles. And we wanted to show whether people would litter this flyer, yes or no. That was the question. Now, the first thing that we studied was, and this is such an open door, you already know this. What's the impact of litter laying on the ground already on the likelihood of you littering such a flyer that you found on the handlebar of your bicycle? Would it have an impact? You hear a drum ruffle, but everybody knows, I guess, that has a huge impact. So 61% of the people littered the flyer that was hanging there when there was already a lot of litter laying around. In the litter-free condition, every time we removed all the litter that was laying on the ground, just to see, would people litter in a litter-free condition? And this is a significant difference. Now, there is already, of course, a message there. The first one is, if you think about litter, don't think about it in terms of pieces of colored things that are laying on the ground. Think about it as signs of behavior. This is what they actually are. It's not a can on the ground is a signal that somebody else violated a rule and littered there. It's a signal of behavior. That's important to understand and to remember. The other thing is, the lesson here, of course, is remove litter. If you want to reduce littering, remove as much litter as possible, which you are already doing in these great initiatives, because it will spark other littering. It's also when you think about schemes to, for example, to reduce littering and you want people to clean. Now, normally in cities, it is a habit to clean in the morning when there is nobody on the street, so you remove the litter and that's it, and then end the next day. But if you can do it, space it out over different times during the day so that the litter doesn't pile up, because again, that induces littering a lot. There is, but it doesn't stop there. Litter has a spread and impact, and that also holds true for other rule violations. So our claim, our hypothesis was that if you see other violations, they tend to induce other violations. So again, same Ellie here, welcome to Groningen. Again, the flyers on the handlebars of the bicycles. But now we wanted to see whether littering was also sparked when you see that other people violated the rule of not spraying graffiti on a wall. You see that other people violated that. Would it have a similar effect? So we had a clean alley there, nothing there. Then on a Saturday night, we went out and sprayed the whole alley full of graffiti. Of course, we had, they said it was okay. And we cleaned everything up, no worries. But we wanted to check what the impact was of that and whether it had a similar effect. And it does. It even had a greater effect. So littering was induced by the presence of graffiti. And this is something that we did in various studies. So this time it's graffiti, a sign of rule violating behavior, but also other things like shopping carts that we left around that you had to bring back. So other types of rule violation have a similar effect. So if you want to address littering, it's a wise thing just to get rid of all those other signals of rule violating behavior as well. And there is also a message there when you try to convince, and I already saw some notes in the question and answer. I'm sorry, you're probably going to ask me later on this, Vivian, but if you want to get the topic of littering in the heads of people of government or municipalities, then you could focus on the fact that littering has a spreading effect on other violations as well. So litter might induce other violations, more serious violations. Now, that's something that we try to study as well, again, in this controlled situation. Letterbox in the Netherlands, what we did was we had an envelope that it hung from the letterbox, and it seemed to contain €5. It's not real money. We don't have that kind of budget in the Netherlands. And we don't want to reward those people that took the envelope. But we wanted to know how many people would take the envelope and just take the money. And would it be influenced by something like litter in that environment? Would that increase the effect? And it does. So the numbers are smaller. The difference is smaller, but it's still a significant effect. You see that with litter present, more people take the envelope. So litter leads to other more serious violations. There is a spreading effect, and that also is a reason to clean up. Now, there were many replications of this study. Sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't. It was replicated in Scandinavia, and I think the research there was near the letterbox for 5 months, and nobody took the envelope. So this is, I don't know what it tells you about the Netherlands, but maybe don't visit. It's dangerous. In a conclusion, so it's rule violations spread. Signs of rule violations make that behavior spread towards other domains. Now, we looked at, we did various replications of that and variations. One important, if I go back, is, for example, does it matter who the violators are? And it does. If the violators are, for example, a group you don't want to belong to, we had Gothics violating a rule, heavy dressed and black makeup and things. I kind of love them, but apparently other people don't. If they were the violators, you don't see this spread. You actually see that it has a increasing effect on that more people adhere to the norm or rule. It's kind of nice. Gothics everywhere. Okay, we tested a solution here. Would it help if you place a prohibition sign there? This is what is commonly done, right? Every practitioner, the one thing they grab to when there is a problem somewhere, just put a sign there. That's enough. Would that work? So we did the same experiment, but now we put up a sign stating no littering in a litter-free environment, in a littered environment, and looked at the effects. Litter-free, you see a drop, 39% litters the flyer. It's not a lot, 47 to 39, but it helped some. But now in the littered environment, this is normally the state in which you put a prohibition sign. Does it work? Not so much. It actually had an increasing effect. To an extent, what the sign is doing, it's making salient that other people apparently littered here and violated this rule. It's almost like a commercial for violation behavior. So governments clean up. As soon as you put a sign there, you need to clean up, otherwise it doesn't work. And for us, it shows the power of other people. And that's something to remember. Because it also works the other way around. And this is what you have been doing. Now, this is again, a bicycle. And I haven't had tulips in there. It's really Dutch, this. So what we did was we had a bicycle laying here. And we wanted to know how many people would take the effort of putting it up, being friendly towards others. And would it be influenced if you see somebody right before you enter this alley, do something good in the sense that they picked up a piece of litter that they just dropped accidentally. Seeing somebody doing a good thing, complying to this rule, does it have a spreading effect in positive sense? How many people would pick up this bicycle? Now, this is no student bike. It's a bike with the flowers in there, and it's a beautiful bike. And we've child seat there. We even had first a baby in the child seat, but the ethical committee thought it wasn't a good thing, so we took the baby out. But we wanted to know how many people would take the effort of putting the bicycle up. And you see, after seeing somebody picking up their own litter, It raised to 34%, coming from 20%. So seeing such an act, and we're getting closer to your initiatives, has a positive effect that it spreads to other norms and it makes people more friendly towards other people. This was again a variation on that. We had oranges that somebody tried to put in their handbag. This is Ellen, and she tried to get it in there. And the oranges rolled away, and we wanted to see how many people would take the effort of helping her and picking up the oranges. Again, a friendly act. And would it be influenced if you see somebody right before you hit this scene actually picking up a piece of litter that they either dropped themselves, or it was a scene like you see here where you see somebody sweeping the pavement, so cleaning that environment, a concerned citizen doing that. And it does. It raised it a lot. So the one where you see actually somebody with a broom, armed with a broom, cleaning the pavement, that really induced you being friendly towards this person and helping them. And that is basically the magic and the core of all these initiatives is citizens being active. They kind of show the support for these norms and the care, and that can spread to other domains as well. So it isn't limited to that specific behavior, but it spreads to other things. And that is something that you need to show. This is in Dutch, but we also showed these in neighborhoods and did research then, and you see that people feel more safe in the neighborhood, but also they think the neighborhood is better. Only these signs is what we showed. Thought the neighborhood was better. They thought it was cleaner. It was all these positive effects by merely showing other people engaging in this. And that is something you can use. And with that, I almost there. If we look at the conclusions, and I think there are more, but I think we get to them in the questions as well. First of all, so litter is an indication of rule violating behavior, and it can spread in a negative way towards more serious, if you want to call it like that, behaviors as well. So get rid of these signs, but support and adherence to rules can also spread in a very great way. Even one person with a broom, and it was already mentioned, even one person can make a difference. But what I think is important here is when I look at the other initiatives as well, is you see great people doing something, and but where you can gain a lot is by making it very, very visible, not to the people who are there, but to the people who aren't there. You want to show all these initiatives to people that aren't actually at the initiative, because if they see others participate, this is where the spreading happens. And you can gain a lot with that. So we have initiatives, for example, in the Netherlands, where you have this day where you clean your street, and it's always early morning, and then you're there with 30 people, but the other few thousands of the neighborhood aren't there, and you're feeling good about yourself. But please communicate, show this initiative to the few thousand that aren't there. That's where you can earn a lot. And the other thing is specifically people that are similar to you. So people from your community, if you see them engage in such behaviors, that is where it has the biggest effect. So people that are similar to you. And with that, are you happy with me, Vivian? Is this okay? Yes. Good. With that, I want to end. Thank you.
Perfect. Okay. Excellent. So thank you very, very much for sharing the example of the Netherlands. Having myself lived for 5 years in the Netherlands, I could completely relate to these behaviors that you mentioned. Either it's the bikes or the tulips or the littering, all of them, I think, plus the cheese, I have to say. So thank you very much, all three speakers, for sharing with us. And actually, I loved that in the end we were building on each other's narrative and stories. Also, the discussion, the Q&A is going very well in the box, and Kathleen is already responding to some questions. So what I would like to do now is maybe Since we have approximately 10 minutes for questions, one question that I would like to address probably to all of you, to all three speakers from your experience, is how do you experience or how do you prepare for the stakeholders engagement? And stakeholders meaning either the municipality that needs to be there in order to support your project, or the community members that need to be there in order to participate, or in your case, maybe the university. So what, let's say, are some key learnings that you have to share from your experience about stakeholders engagement in SaaS projects? You can unmute yourself and feel free to share whenever you want. Thank you.
I can add one thing based on research that hopefully you can use. So we, for example, in research found that when it comes to shop owners in a certain areas or commercial organizations, that it can be hard to involve them because they see it as something separate from their business, and they think if I devote time to cleaning up stuff, for example, that makes that I earn less. So, but what we found in research was that people were actually willing to spend more time. So visitors were willing to spend more time in a certain area when there is less litter laying around. They were shopping longer in areas if there wasn't litter laying around. We also saw that how a brand was perceived, for example, was reduced. How positive it was received was reduced when people see litter laying around of that specific brand. Now, these are all findings that you could use to show to shop owners and other people and businesses to show you need to do this because it has a very positive impact financially on you and your business. Hopefully you have something of that. That helps.
I would definitely piggyback on that. And, you know, it really is about finding out how you can show those other stakeholders how it's beneficial to them. And so, for example, the river cleanup that we just held in New Johnsonville, Tennessee, when we did that placemaking, where we're pointing out that you know, there's a historic component to what you're cleaning up, you know, literally on the graves of soldiers, and giving people that extra sense of history to what they're doing. We actually saw that the park rangers became so inspired themselves that they actually, the second time we had a cleanup, they did a lot of the logistics for us. We didn't have to set up a trash bin to have everything hauled off. They did everything. And the second time we came, they were actually strategizing, hey, I think we could rent some pontoon boats and have our own cleanups. And so, you know, when you empower people and all it takes is showing them the way. And when that happens and the difference that they can make, you know, I think that really does make a difference. Also, you know, we really are trying to hit on every level. So government entities like park managers and municipalities, but also private companies. So we actually requested from a company that had an industrial plant on the river, to have their staff come out and participate in a cleanup that was specifically with their staff. And they wound up donating to our organization immediately following the cleanup. And they've already adopted River Miles as a company. And so, you know, when you see that, you can, you know, penetrate every level from industry to individual citizen. I think that's when you're really going to start to see differences.
I think our key learning is probably the tone that we use in contacting and talking to and approaching the stakeholders, because you don't accuse people, as I mentioned, you don't accuse municipalities, you don't accuse institutions, you try to find a balance, because otherwise, if you start with this kind of aggressive tone and you present yourself as like, we advocate for the nature, so you have to listen to us, it's not the solution. We've had some cases where, of course, like municipalities are not responsive, where administration generally is not responsive. We've had cases where people, also the communities, are not responsive and they're not interested. But we also had some cool cases of how we could collaborate with both of these groups and institutions and people and bring a really cool result after that. For example, during the campaign, we've had several cleanup, I would say, removal of the illegal dumpings. The signals were received by people, were given by people to the municipality. We supported these signals. And through a common work with municipalities and people, like these illegal dumping sites with a lot of waste were just removed. I mean, and it's a lot of garbage. Like the overall, for just 1 year, it was 123 tons of litter just collected because of that. So I would say, first of all, you don't go aggressively to people or to institutions or to stakeholders. This is not the solution, and you need to try to find a balance and discussion and establish a dialogue with them.
Perfect. Thank you, all three of you, for sharing different perspectives of stakeholder engagement, whether it's from the top to down or from the bottom up, because I think this is also the beauty of placemaking, that it involves all aspects that have to do with what was already mentioned with place management and place maintenance and placemaking. I am also checking now the chat box, the kind of questions that we have. Kathleen has already responded to some, but I see one that has to do with how do you convince people it's a positive step to make more community spaces rather than, making something beautiful, as a city would come to make it beautiful and let it be beautiful. Because we have seen, it was also noted in the question, sometimes you have the opposite effect, that you make something beautiful as a city, but then people come and loiter it more or litter it more. So yeah, this would be a question maybe that whomever of your all three of you would like to reflect upon.
Well, regarding that question, the element that I could say something about is, it's also asked, well, that municipalities are, for example, afraid that it will invite a lot of violations and that kind of thing. And well, the commenter says, well, isn't it when you invite more people that it has a positive effect? And what I see from research, that is exactly the case. So it's specifically anonymous places where not a lot of people are around. These attract a lot of violations and criminality and littering and that kind of thing. If you make places that more people are around, if you create places where other people can also look into and is part of a community, these types of areas are littered less and are actually less inviting to criminal behavior and that kind of thing. So it's actually completely the other way around as the municipality is claiming, to my experience.
And I completely agree. And I do want to add, when I was at the city of Knoxville in the Parks and Recreation Department, this is my favorite anecdote. So we were building a greenway, and there were those fear-based questions, this is going to bring criminals, to have people coming by our houses. So the community actually requested for fencing to be put in between the greenway and their housing. And then after it was in, they realized what an asset it was. And then they asked the city to build a gate in the fence so that they could have access to it, and so it really is, when you're trying to do the placemaking, it's really important to bring those statistics with you about how it increases the value of areas and reduces crime. And, like with building of trails and greenways, a really easy thing to laugh off is, oh, yes, because you always see a thief running down a trail with a TV in their arm. Right. So, similar as litter and everything. So anyway, that's my favorite anecdote about that.
Yeah, I totally agree with both of the speakers actually. Just to add also one comment, that we had just one of the cases quite recently, I think in December, where we renovated the area, we built some benches and put some trash bins. It made it actually look better. And at some point there was a lady coming and saying, you're going to attract a lot of young people coming here who are going to come and dirt. It's going to be really noisy for us here in the neighboring. And it's not really convenient for all people living in here. While the fact that this place is located in the center. So this is practically the area where a lot of people pass through. So I think generally when starting something, you just, as I mentioned in the presentation, you just need to make localized solutions that are convenient to the community and that are based on what they need. Actually, this is the best choice, I would say.
Yeah, thank you all for sharing. I will try to draw some conclusions now, because I'm also trying to be aware of time, and we're running a little bit over time. Something that I can relate a lot to, some placemaking quotes, if I may say. Fred Kent from Project for Public Spaces always says that what attracts more people is actually more people. And what I'm drawing from here is this is what also you're trying to do. You're trying to attract good behavior, you're trying to attract beauty, but from a point of view that comes from the bottom up. So by enhancing these elements and highlighting the good assets of a place, you are able, I feel, to bring this littering prevention that we are all aiming for. And I very much appreciated the elements of locality that you have all represented. So how do you bring cultural and social aspects of the place more to the foreground to enhance this identity of place as an element that we all feel proud of? And by feeling proud of the elements that are ours in our heritage, in our identity, we're also able to take care of our place as a home that Kathleen mentioned in her own presentation, and I very much feel connected to as well. And something last is that I also appreciated a lot in all three initiatives of yours that you have data. And I think that this is something, and we also realize it as a network in Placemaking Europe, that we miss it a lot from placemaking projects. Being able to measure your impact and have research data that proves how things change enhance a lot the argumentation towards this kind of community and citizen-led practices. As Case also mentioned, by making your point towards the businesses that, look, what we're doing now makes it better also for your income and your sales. In the same way, we can also do to the city governments and also to the people living in an area. So thank you all of you for having this common line. And yeah, I think these are the main points that I would like to make. I would like to give the floor to you now, to my speakers and guests, including Jared. Thank you for still being all here with us. If you would like to make any final comments for our session here. Thank you. All good. Perfect. Thank you very much. Before you go, we need a checkout. Always in this kind of sessions, regardless if we are interactive or if we are on a webinar, so we cannot unfortunately see everyone's faces, I would like to invite now all attendees, so everyone being here, to go on this link that I will just share now in the chat. One moment. Hop. It is Emojipedia. So I would like to ask you to rename yourself by copy-pasting an emoji from this page that I have just posted with you about how you feel regarding the knowledge and experience you have received today from our webinar. For instance, if you feel like, okay, I have listened enough, now I'm going to bed, you can put an emoji that it has to do with someone going to bed. If you feel like it was fruitful, you can add an orange, for instance. So feel free to choose the one that checks you out from our session. I also need to do it myself. And you can rename yourself by, I think you can all do it. I don't know if you can see yourself or your name. So, or put it in the chat, very well. Let's see. I see light bulbs, I see fire, I see sparks, I see love, fireworks. What else do I see? Oh, very nice. I see lighting and thunder and plants and hearts. Perfect. Power, strength. Very happy that you feel empowered from our session and inspired, excited. And let's hope that this session will help us to move forward with our community-led projects towards a more just and litter-free environment. Last thing, before I forget and Kira kills me, after we finish with the webinar, when we close the Zoom, you will be led to a website with the webpage to evaluate and reflect on our session. So please don't forget to do that, because this will help us to design our next webinars even better and more relevant to your needs as well. Carrie, is there anything I'm forgetting before I thank all our speakers and everyone else?
I think always good. Hopefully, if our speakers have some extra time, they might also answer the extra questions, and you will get, hopefully tomorrow, the recording of the webinar in a follow-up email, as well as the recording of the Q&A session. So you'll see all of the questions and the answers answered, and the chat also. And please fill out the survey that we will get after you exit the webinar. It would be very good to have the feedback and know how to improve for future events. And thank you all to all the speakers that presented today. It was very informing and very inspiring.
Thank you all, and many thanks also to BGB Active for hosting this webinar and conversation. Best of luck to all of your interventions, and see you soon probably. Bye-bye.
Thank you, Vivian. Thank you, Carrie.
Yeah, thank you very much for organizing.
Thank you. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much for inviting, and yeah, for inspirational speeches and stories.